You see, Rosalie, I'm innocent, even if John Blake isn't. I haven't murdered anyone. It was another part of me, but if I try to run away, they'll find me, they'll hurt me for what John Blake did. Where can I go? What can I do?
You can go to the police and tell them the whole truth. Because, you see, they can't do anything to you. You're not responsible for what you did as John Blake.
Yeah, maybe you're right. There's no point in running. Look, I know I have no right to ask it, but would you go with me, Rosalie?
Of course I will, Jeff.
It's like being haunted, knowing that somewhere inside of me there's another man, never knowing when I'll be him. Say, what if I turn into John Blake before we even get to the police? Rosalie was right. I thought about it as we walked down the stairs. Well, they'd know what to do with a case like mine. They'd know that Jeffrey Bruno wasn't responsible for what John Blake did. Of course, they'd lock me up for my own good, and then they'd leave me in there.
What's the matter, Jeff?
Wait, Rosalie. You're right. I mustn't run away, but first I've got to find out about the other me, about John Blake. All I know is that he murdered someone. I have to know other things about him, what he was really like.
I understand, Jeff, but you mustn't do anything foolish.
I have to know about my other life, what books I read, what kind of girls I liked. You can see that's important, can't you?
Of course. Jeff, I just thought of something. I know a man, a psychiatrist. Maybe if I called him, you could see him tonight. He'd understand. Maybe he could tell you what to do. Will you talk to him?
Well, I'll do anything. It'll help me to understand what I was like when I was John Blake and why I was like that.
I'll go in the drugstore here and call him. I'm sure he'll see you, and we'll do whatever he says.
Now, Mr. Bruno, you say there have been many times when you haven't remembered what happened for days?
Oh, not many. A few times. It only happened after I'd been drinking, and I thought that's all it was. Until this...
I see. It's a very interesting case.
Well, what is it, Doctor? I've done some reading on psychiatry, and it sounds... Is it split personality?
Schizophrenia? Yes, it's very possible. For instance, subconsciously, you might have had a desire for things which consciously you'd convince yourself were bad. That desire became so great that you created John Blake, so you could satisfy it without compromising Jeffrey Bruno.
Yeah, but wouldn't I be partly aware of wanting those things? Isn't it possible that I'm not John Blake, that all of this is something else?
I'll let you answer that yourself, Mr. Bruno.
Well, how can I? If I could answer it, I wouldn't be here.
Mr. Bruno, do you honestly believe that there is a real person named John Blake, a person who looks exactly like you, a person whose coat and identification came accidentally into your possession?
No, I guess I don't, but there must be another explanation.
Well, the alternative would be to believe that someone is framing you. Do you believe that someone drugged you several times, so there'd be days you couldn't account for? That someone forged the papers of John Blake and planted them on you? Can you believe that someone planned to commit this murder months ago, rented an apartment in the name of John Blake, filled it with clothing in your size, put your photograph in the apartment?
No, but...
According to the newspaper story, the nephew of the murder victim was the only man to identify your picture. Therefore, he would have to have been the one to frame you. Well, this would imply that this Roger Gunn knew you and you knew him. Do you?
No, I don't remember.
Well, then can you believe that he was able to drug you, to know your clothes size, to get a photograph of you?
I guess not.
Besides, if he framed you, that implies he is the murderer. But that can't be, because according to the butler, the nephew was with him at the time the murder took place. You see, Mr. Bruno?
I see. Well, what can I do, Doctor?
Well, if this were not a murder case, the answer would be a simple one. I'd undertake to treat you. But as it is, I'm afraid I must suggest that you go to the police.
Yeah, I suppose you're right.
I'm sorry I wasn't able to help you, young man. If you'd only come to me sooner.
Jeff, can you help him, Doctor?
Under the circumstances, it's too late for me to do anything directly. I've advised Mr. Bruno to go to the police.
Come on, Jeff. I'll go with you.
All right. Well, thank you, Doctor.
Oh, not at all. Sorry, I can't do more. Good night.
Good night.
Good night. I'm sorry, Jeff, but they'll have to believe you. They can't make you suffer for what John Blake did. And then, when you're well...
When I'm well? What?
We'll see.
Rosalie, there's one more thing I want to do before I go to the police. I want to see the apartment where I lived when I was John Blake. I still don't know what I was like when I was being here. Maybe if I can only see how I lived, it'll give me a clue.
There it is, Jeff, right across the street.
Uh-huh. The lobby looks empty. Now, let's see. The address on the letter is apartment 203.
Wasn't there anything in the letter?
It was a bill. It seems that I'm not only an embezzler and a murderer, but I didn't even pay John Blake's bill.
Please, Jeff, don't joke about it.
All right, Rosalie, no joking. I don't think it's very funny either. Now, if I were John Blake, I ought to have a key to my own apartment. This must be it. I don't remember ever seeing it before, but the number 203 is stamped on it. Well, Rosalie.
I'll stay here and warn you if the police come. Good luck, Jeff.
The lobby was empty. I got on the self-service elevator and I rode up to the second floor. It, too, was deserted, and I walked to the door of my apartment. I hesitated, wondering if maybe there were a policeman inside. Well, I had to take the chance. The key worked, and I stepped inside. The place seemed empty. I turned on the light. It was a small apartment, inexpensive, perfectly correct, and dull. There were hunting prints on the wall. There were 2 suits in the wardrobe. My size all right, even though I couldn't remember buying them. There were even monogrammed handkerchiefs. It was unreal. Yet I had to believe all these things belonged to me, that there had been times when I liked wearing them. My head was spinning by now, and I leaned up against the wall. I don't know how long I stood there, unaware of anything except the pain inside. Gradually, I was aware that somebody was knocking on a door, but it was several seconds before I located it. It was at my door. The police? Oh, no, Rosalie said she'd warn me. It was the police. I wasn't ready to give myself up yet. I ran to the window. There was a fire escape outside.
Open up or we'll break it down.
I raised the window and looked out. I couldn't see anyone.
Okay, boys, let's go in.
I had to take a chance that there wasn't a cop at the bottom of the fire escape. I climbed out and closed the window. As I started to break in, I ran down the fire escape. I jumped to the ground and looked around the corner. There was one man sitting in a police car. I turned and ran the other way. I must have run 2 blocks before I heard footsteps behind me. I turned and it was Rosalie.
Jeff.
You said you'd warn me. What happened?
But I did, Jeff. I rang the buzzer twice while they were getting out of the car. When I saw you getting away, I thought you'd heard. You must have heard it.
You rang twice? The bell must be out of order, just like John Blake. Or I didn't hear it. I almost didn't hear them knocking. I'm sorry, Rosalie. I don't know.
It doesn't matter, Jeff. I was so frightened.
Oh, you mustn't be. I promise I won't do anything to involve you or hurt you.
Oh, I wasn't thinking of myself. You can't go on like this, Jeff. You've got to go in. Give yourself a chance to get well.
I know. You know, upstairs there for a minute, I thought of running away, of going to some little town and changing my name, but that's no good either. That wouldn't get rid of John Blake.
Then?
I've got an idea. Just one more try. Another hour won't make any difference to the police.
All right, Jeff. Where are we going?
Not we, Rosalie. I'm not going to involve you in this anymore. I was John Blake. I did the things John Blake did, and I have to see it through to the finish.
At least tell me where you're going.
No, it'll be better if you don't know.
Oh, please, Jeff.
No, this is the way it has to be. Then if it turns out worse than we think, you can just remember that for a few hours you were friendly to someone who needed it. If I come through this, if I get well, then...
Yes, Jeff?
Well, as you said, Rosalie, we'll see.